Simone, welcome.
We made it.
Welcome.
Look at this.
Welcome to English Oak Vineyard.
How are you?
Nice to see you. I'm very well, thank you.
What a place you have here.
Well, thank you. That's really kind.
And what a day we picked for it as well.
It's absolutely beautiful. We've had all that rain all winter, and suddenly we got a heat wave.
The famous English summer in full force, eh? All right, let's have a look at this, shall we?
Come and see some vines. This is the vineyard. We have 23,000 vines here, and from those we make 6 different sparkling wines.
And I mean, what a place we're in. So, for the people that don't know, no, we're not in France. No, we're not in Italy. This is Dorset.
This is sunny Dorset.
And this is stunning,
Absolutely.
it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Literally around the corner from my house, 15 minutes drive, and you're pretty much in a different dimension in my eyes. It's just so calm. I
mean, what we're making
peaceful.
here, of course, is the same as Champagne. We've got Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier and Chardonnay grapes planted here. If you look out, you can just about make out, if you look across the big vineyard area out there, you can see a sort of greyish stripe in the middle, sort of slightly dull stripe. That's the Pinot Meunier. It's got a slightly hairy leaf, which gives it a sort of dull grey sort of colour. On the far side of that is Pinot Noir, and on the near side is Chardonnay. This vineyard here is Chardonnay that we're in here, and then more Pinot Noir with a bit of Meunier down in this vineyard. And then another vineyard further round has got mostly Pinot Noir in it.
And can I just say, this gives a very, very strong Tuscan Hills vibe.
Yeah?
Very, very strong. And I mean, the whole scenario of being in England and yet have that feeling of, hey, there is a vineyard there. Hey, we're surrounded by it. Hey, we're kind of like in this dimension. I think it's stunning. I think it's incredible. It's not other ways to put it.
And the vines love it. We're just in the early stage of development here. We've got a little bit of growth coming up. We're trapping the vines or the shoots as they go up within the wires. You can see the little inflorescences that are emerging here. So these are the bunches of grapes that will be eventually a bunch of grapes on
grapes
on each one. That's it. And you can see they're flowering. Do you see the little flowers here? This is a process known as flowering. So when this time of year we need these little flowers to appear. It's called flowering, and then the fruit sets as a result of these flowers, and then these berries will then start to expand and grow into grapes. So it's really essential that we get flowering at this time of year, and a good quality flowering. So no rain, lots of these little flowers in the nice sunshine, and that's happening.
Let's talk about that, because I always found it fascinating. Obviously, I come from the south of Italy, which is a super sunny place. Arguably, to an extent these days, too sunny. Mm-hmm. You kind of had the opposite problem here.
Yes,
You don't have enough sun normally. Obviously, things are changing with the climate, but what's the challenge of growing vines in the English climate?
Well, it's a big challenge for still wines. If you're trying to make, for instance, a red wine, a really good red wine, you're really going to struggle because we just don't have the warmth to get the depth of the character into the grapes. But if you're making sparkling wine, you're looking for in sparkling wine that little bit of extra acidity, which is absolutely a constituent part of sparkling. So the cooler climate actually allows for that, and you know there's no question we can grow great Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, Chardonnay, and make good sparkling wine from those here on the south coast.
A blessing in disguise.
Yeah. And if you think where Epinay and Reims is on the other side of the channel there, it's not so far south off the north coast of France. So actually we can produce a very similar product over here on the south coast of England particularly.
Which is a growing market, is a growing movement that I don't think many people know about. And this is what we're trying to achieve with this documentary, right? We're not just here to come and show people where you are. We're here to also talk to people about what's happening in the wine world, sparkling wine, still wine, whatever you may be, in England. Because there is movements, there is plans for expansions all over the country.
Yep.
And yet I don't think many people know how many you will have around the corner, just simply because you're not aware of it. So we're trying to bring some awareness to you. Hopefully you'll come and visit these guys after this episode.
Absolutely, and you'll find that when we first started 17 years ago, people were coming here and they were sort of slightly curious because they kind of didn't believe it. Now the word is getting out. English wine, particularly the sparkling wines from in England, are really getting a great reputation, and so people are coming now more wanting to understand what this great reputation is about, rather than the curiosity of could it really be that there's a vineyard in England. So we're finding the whole marketplace is maturing in terms of its knowledge and its understanding and its appreciation of the style of wine that we create here in England.
Do you feel also the English general public is elevating their wine experience and elevating their wine knowledge as a result of maybe bad habits in the past of just not being interested in the quality drinking side of things? We know now how much it's important to eat well, for fitness, and I think wine is becoming an element of that as well.
Absolutely, but also I think people's palates are becoming a little bit more discerning. I joke when we do tours here that when I was younger we were drinking Liebfraumilch and Blue Nun and Mateus Rosé and basic slightly sweet Germanic type variety of wines. The English palate now is beginning to mature a little, and I think the scope of what people are looking for is widened, and I think they appreciate different wines
Which
more.
is a good thing
Yeah,
for the whole
absolutely,
movement.
absolutely.
Okay.
So as I said, these are Chardonnay. We'll go down here where the Pinot Noir wines are. None of this was here. There were cows in this field here when we bought the farm. Cows in the field up there. The vineyard further over here, the biggest vineyard area, that was all turnips growing. So we created the vineyard absolutely from scratch. The vineyard is named after this large oak tree here. You see, this is about 350 years old. So
Which is also on the logo, right?
this is also on the logo. When that tree was a sapling, Isaac Newton was discovering that an apple drops from a tree, and I mean, it's just a fabulous tree. Sadly, about 3 years ago, we had a big storm and a quarter of the tree peeled off. It got too heavy and crashed down, and we committed ourselves to reuse and recycle every part of it. This was part of the trunk. It's actually upside down, so this was down and this was up. And we had a sculptor come in who does sculptures with chainsaws, and this is kind of the spirit of the oak tree over there.
Wow.
So you can come down and kind of talk to him if you're having a bad day, and he says, look, I've been around for 350 years.
Do people get drunk and then come and talk to it? Or
Maybe.
This is where we are now, and obviously people see the finished product here. They see, oh yes, we got X amount of vines, we produce X amount of bottles. How hard was it though to get to this point?
It's the opposite of retirement. I talked about retirement a moment ago. This is the opposite of retirement. This is full on, all year round, really intense work, but incredibly rewarding work. I mean, you're producing a product which is just so fabulous to present to the potential customers, and so I'm really pleased that we made the decision to do this.
If you were to rewind it, would you still have gone down the route of doing it from scratch, or would you have picked maybe an already established?
No, I think it's kind of like buying a new car. You want something where only you have touched it and you know exactly what you've done with it. And it's just, you know, it's out. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There isn't a vine here that I haven't been through and planted and so on and so forth. One of the, you know, I talked about the bowl being lovely and the sort of bowl shape that's here. One of the disadvantages, of course, is in the winter, you get the cold air rolls down and you get these frost pockets down here in the bottom of the vineyard where we are now. And that can do quite a bit of damage. This year we've been very lucky. It's been wet for sure, but we've had no frost. So we haven't had too much damage from frost. To give you some idea of the scope of that, best years in this vineyard have been about 80 tons of grapes. But in 2 years where we had frost in one night, each of those 2 years we had frost on one night, we went down to 7 tons. So more than 90% of the crop was wiped out in that one night. In 2 years.
Wow.
So it's dangerous.
And that puts things in perspective to people, because people think, oh yeah, they just farming another, you know, fruit or another grape variety. It's not that easy. There is a lot of moving parts, there is elements, and it's like a whole year of work to get to the final product. But in this instance, it's not even just a year, it's 17 years of work to get you to the point where you are now.
Yeah.
And again, put that in perspective, one night can kind of take that all away to you.
Absolutely, but you still have to do all the same work for the rest of the year. You've got no crop there, but you've still got to look after the vines. You've still got to spend the same amount of money. The only thing you save on is harvest cost, but every other cost and every other work that has to be done through the year is exactly the same. It's soul destroying. But in good years, you put lots of wine away, and you thank the good years and you roll with the punches on the poor years. And we have deer that live in the vineyard. I'm kind of looking up and down the rows just to see if we can see the deer that live in here, because they're quite
Well,
cute.
they actually live here?
Yeah, they live out in the vineyard. Normally,
Do they pay rent?
no, and they nibble the shoots in the early season, so it's not ideal, to be honest.
So they're not ideal clients.
Not
nor
ideal, but they're
lodgers.
But they're lovely. So if we look up here, you can see these vines here have got just a slightly grey tinge to them. If you just feel that leaf there with your finger and thumb, and you feel it's got this velvety sort of feel to it. And that's the little hairs that are on the leaf, and that's the character of the Meunier, and that velvety hairiness on the leaf gives it that grey tinge. So if we look, if we pan the camera around and we look across this way, for instance, we can see the greyish leaf on towards the left here, and then on the right hand side over there, the more green leaf, that's the Chardonnay. This is the Pinot Meunier. And then going across further over, and once we go through the Meunier, we then come out to the Pinot Noir. All of this was planted at the same time.
At the same time?
At the same time, yep. We decided we would have 40% Chardonnay, 20% Meunier, and 40% Pinot Noir. And that coincides with the sort of use we have in terms of our blending and and the wines that we produce. But as we saw from the vines further up the way, and it's the same with these ones down here, of course,
we can see it down
lots
there.
of lovely inflorescences. Flowering just starting, good sized bunches. We look for about 2 bunches per shoot. And as each shoot comes up, you're looking for about, on the main arms that are tied down, you're looking for about 8 shoots on each side. And then you're looking for about 2 bunches per shoot of these little inflorescences, as they're called.
So 16.
So about 16 on each side, and then and once we see that, and particularly if we see that the inflorescences are a good size, we're confident we're going to get a pretty good crop. It's getting very close now to the time we would come out here and count the inflorescences that we see, and that will then give us a much more scientific indication. But it's looking good.
We discussed also earlier on harvest time.
Yep.
Differently from Italy and Spain, maybe also.
And France also, yeah.
From still wines.
Yep.
It's not the September timeline, you're looking more at the October timeline.
Correct. So in Champagne, for instance, they would harvest in September. We're a little further north, so it's a little bit later. So I think just about every year we've harvested here, we've harvested in October. We've never managed to get it into September. I think we went into the first week of November in one particular year where it was really quite cold during the year. But generally it's first, second or third week of October we harvest here. And we will have about 25 pickers a day. Of course, every one of these bunches, because we're making sparkling wine, we can't use a machine. So every bunch has to be snipped off by hand and put gently into a basket so we don't break the skins. Otherwise we get some astringency, the juice comes into contact with the skin. We don't want that. Yeah. Sparkling wine is too delicate for having anything like that. So every one of these bunches has to be cut off by hand. So it's days and days and days of work with 25 people, picking, and then we bring the baskets down and we collect them and take them to the winery.
Then translates into the quality of the bottle. When people are actually drinking it, if you have that in the back of your mind and you're like, oh, this took X amount of time to actually produce this bottle. It gives a different flavor to it, doesn't it? It's not just, yes, it's a great wine, but it's like an artisan product.
For sure. Much. And everybody who comes here, and those who are maybe even watching this, are amazed at how complex the process of making particularly sparkling wine is. There are so many stages in the process. Now you're talking about from the point at which you're beginning the year before harvest, you've got that year, and then you've got typically 2, 3, maybe 4 years of development of the wine and storage of the wine in cellars while it's developing before those bottles are ready for releasing. So it's a long process.
And is the process happening here? Is there any part of the process happening on premises?
No, here we grow the grapes and we do the whole of the vineyard management side here. The winery is in Findon in West Sussex, which is where our winemaker lives. So we ship from here to the winery and we make it there. And then we bring it back here for the sales and marketing of the product. When you plant the vineyard from day one, it takes 3 years before you get any grapes. And then it takes another 3 years minimum in the making process. So for 6 years, you've got nothing to sell. And so when we started this, we kind of decided there is growing good grapes, making good wine and selling it. And we were confident we could grow good grapes and we could sell the wine. We wanted to de-risk the winemaking part in the middle. So we decided we would search for a really good winemaker who could produce some excellent quality wine from us and just de-risk that whole winemaking process. And I think that was a pragmatic and sensible decision.
Ultimately, all this talking about it is now making me slightly thirsty. So shall we go and try it?
Let's go drink wine, shall we?
Let's do it. So this is the moment that certainly I was very
You've
much
been waiting for.
but also for whoever is watching is...
Whoever comes on the tours is always waiting for the wine.
This is the moment.
We keep the wine tasting right to the end. That makes
Thank
builds
you
the
very much, sir.
anticipation, and also maybe some slight worry as to are the wines going to be as good as they're hoping they're going to be. This wine called Quercus is 100% Chardonnay. It's from 2020. It's aged in an oak barrel for 9 months, so you get just a little hint of the oak coming into it, but also you get that smoothness and silkiness that comes from the air, oxygen getting to the wine a little, and then just that little bit of warmth that comes from the oak. We'll see that this got the sort of nice stream of bubbles inside. You can get a little bit of that on the
Salute.
Salute. There's something about an old cigar box that comes through in both on the nose of the wine.
That's cinnamon.
And that little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of almond. There's a hint of plum in there as well, I think.
It's different. It's very, very different. It's actually very pleasant.
It's got that warmth that the tank-aged wines don't have.
It's more bodied.
Yeah, it's fuller. Absolutely, it is.
And it's, again, on the palate, it's very soft, it's round all over your mouth.
Yep.
I think it's very pleasant, my friend. I think you've done...
It's a nice wine. The Blanc Noir version of this, which is called Royal, is also spectacular. It's very, very much cigar box on the nose, and then on the palate, it's got this beautiful ripe pear characteristic to it.
Let's talk about the future.
Yes.
We spoke about the wines
Yep.
that originally first coming out of the vineyard. We spoke about the new versions of those wines. We spoke about the latest release.
Yes.
What's next for you guys?
Well, we might experiment with some different styles again. We certainly bought a lot more oak barrels because we really like the style that the oak imparts to the wine.
Pretty
so
unique.
These were very low production wines where we were experimenting back in the 2020 as to how the wines might present. We were delighted with that, so we're going to be doing a lot more of that going forward. We will maybe experiment with a different style of wine again after that. I'd like to just experiment with Meunier and see what we can do with Meunier on its own. Whether it'll work or not, I don't know. So we'll be doing some of that. And then we just are gently, in a sort of a snowball way, seeing the business grow and grow. But we like to keep the business local. We like to have direct contact with our customers. We try to put as few people between us and the end customer so that they can get a sort of sense of ourselves, and we can get a sense of how they're enjoying the wines.
And this is where Dorset Wine Festival comes in play, right? So
absolutely.
Obviously with the festival, what we're trying to achieve is give everybody a bit more of an understanding of how many different varieties of wine are all over the world that are available for you to try, but B, also take it back one step and be like, hey, there is a lot going on here locally that you probably don't know about, that probably you haven't tried yet. And it's absolutely stunning. And we're very, very fond of, obviously, English vineyards. We want to promote English vineyards. Obviously, when you come inside the castle, the very first room that is going to present to you, which is the center room inside the castle, will be for English vineyards only. And that for us was a very important decision to make, because again, we see a lot of value in the English growing market. We see a lot of value in the movement in general with it, and we think we can grow hand in hand with that. So What do you see the connection of Dorset Wine Festival being with you guys? Obviously, you will be there, you will be amongst the 3,000 people that are going to come for the first ever time to do a wine festival in a castle, which is unique, first time ever in the UK. What do you see as a result of that?
Well, first of all, it's going to give us a great opportunity to showcase what Dorset can produce, because there is a sense that Sussex and the southeast is where the wine business is, and that's certainly true. There's very strong vineyard representation in that area, but Dorset, Hampshire, Dorset, we're going right down to Cornwall, but particularly here in Dorset, we've got some great vineyards who are producing some excellent quality wines. And it's a great opportunity to have a vehicle that you've created there that will promote what we can do here in Dorset, and give people a chance to buy locally and really locally. I mean, we were awarded Environmental Business of the Year 2019 for Dorset, and that recognises all sorts of initiatives that we have here. But one of those things is we like to sell locally and keep local. So our carbon footprint is the minimum we can make it. And so we need every vehicle we can find to promote Dorset as a wine producing area and region, if you like.
Because we live in a stunning part of England. I mean, it's absolutely, we were talking about this the other day, and it's just like, I don't think people realize how lucky and blessed we are to be living down here. What we have here, I think, is stunning. And, you know, I come from Italy. I come from a place that is also absolutely stunning. It's also absolutely underrated. It's also absolutely not valued. And I don't want this to happen here as well. So I'm doing everything in my power in order to try and push it and promote it as much as I can, because I believe in it. I believe that we can make this the place to be for everybody.
For sure.
And everybody be proud and be absolutely 1,000,000% invested in keeping this place as the place to be. Because again, it's, as you said, you need everybody to be supporting you. You need, you know, the end consumer, you need the people that are living in the place, you need the tourists, you need everyone to be on the same page and be like, actually, let's keep an eye on this, and let's see it growing and support it and be behind it.
And one of our objectives when we first started was to try and find the local population who drink sparkling wine or champagne and say to them, you don't have to buy imported from France or even from outside of this region. You know, there is great produce here, right here in Dorset. And we're very grateful for you for creating a vehicle that actually allows us to promote what Dorset can do. And we reciprocate to try and continue to create great product and support you in what you do, and give us a chance to talk to the local population. We do that through tours here. We have people come here on our vineyard tours. So we, one glass at a time, try to sell the idea of English wine and then of course Dorset wine. So any vehicle like the one that you've created is a great way of getting the public here and really demonstrating what we can do.
Fantastic. So to finish it off, English Oak, right here in Dorset. Come and visit them, come and enjoy these spectacular views, come and absolutely taste the beauty of Dorset right in a glass.
Cheers.
And come and visit Dorset Wine Festival. These guys are going to be there.
We'll be there.
Thank you very much for having us, Andrew. Right, to wrap it up, another beautiful day here in sunny Dorset with Andrew Farrow.
Stunning.
English Oak. Andrew, thank you very much for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And a pleasure.
Very enjoyable.
Thank you.
We can't wait for everybody to try your wines at Dorset Wine Festival.
Thank you.
And
we look forward to it. And before you go, we must give you a case of the wine to have as samples for others to taste and see what they.
That's very kind of you, sir. Actually, why don't we bring this to our next episode? Stay tuned.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for coming.
Hey.
Bye-bye.